Hi everyone, thank you so much for watching my other videos and giving me very good constructive feedback. I'm so blessed to be surrounded by people who would give me feedback, give me raw details and help me to passionately get better at what I do. Okay, so thank you so much for that. And in today's episode, I really wanted to focus on a topic which is not really widely spoken of, but I believe it is an important one, especially for those people who are out there seeking their virtuous wife, their prospective partner, their for an ever and ever person in their life, their better half, as they say. So this episode or this video is really just focused on that. And I want to speak from the point of view of my husband, who had a very interesting experience when he was looking for me, in a nutshell. So his story started way back when he was in his late 20s and he was in the marriage age. He was frantically going for dates and appointments, if you want to call it, to meet women after women after women for coffee and lunch and just to get to know them, only to be left with the very deep conviction that they were not his prospective partner. Now, not that they were bad, not that they were not good looking, not that they were, of any sort of, there was any sort of issue, but it was just that in his heart, he knew that the right fit wasn't achieved in that conversation. So he kept searching and he knew he's not going to compromise. He's just not going to settle in just because of the pressure. He just kept looking to a point where he was exhausted. So he was just, after all these conversations and all these coffees, he kind of knew the best places in Melbourne to have a decent cup of coffee. And also that the profiles of people that wouldn't really match the desires of his heart. So he knew that none of these are going to work out. So he was privileged to actually meet someone who gave him some very good counseling. And they said in Proverbs 19, chapter 19, verses 14, it says, houses and riches are from your parents. So they will leave you an inheritance. They will leave you riches and they will leave you these earthly possessions. But a prudent wife or a virtuous wife comes from the Lord. So if you are seeking a virtuous wife, you might actually have to go to the source of that provision, which is you need to go to the Lord to seek him and to pray for this particular gift from him. So wife is a gift that you get from the Lord, in a nutshell. It got him thinking, and then he was like, so what do I pray? What do I ask for? And it kind of dawned on, him that, people want to be rich, right? People want to be rich. They want to be wealthy, but they just don't know how to be rich. They don't know how to be wealthy. There are a number of strategies, but one of the principle is investing. So he was advised that he needs to invest into his prospective wife even before he has met this person. And in the Bible, again, there is a very beautiful nugget of prayer. So if you want to invest into your prospective wife, and if you want to invest so that you can achieve this virtuous wife as a gift from the Lord, Proverbs 31 verses 10 onwards gives you a beautiful impression of what a virtuous wife would look like. He took all this advice. He went home. He opened the Bible to chapter 31 verses 10 onwards, read it from the very first verse to the very end, and he realized this is exactly what I am wanting. The deepest desire of my heart is this. It'll be a bonus if the person looks good, but deep inside his heart, he knew that every single verse made sense to him, made relevance to him. So what he did was, he didn't sit on it. He didn't say that, wow, this is the responsibility of the wife that is supposed to come my way. He didn't go for more dates to keep this as a checklist and say, do you match these criteria? Do you match them? No, yes, no. He didn't do any of that. What he did was, instead of wasting his time in unnecessary interactions and conversations over a cup of coffee, he stopped trusting in his own ability and started using Proverbs 31 as the investment strategy into the spiritual realm. So he took those words every day, or maybe every other day. He would regularly visit it and pray over his future wife, even though he has not seen it. He started depositing these words as an investment in the spiritual realm. And as he kept doing it, the desires of his heart also started transforming to see those kind of values or that kind of strengths or attributes in that person. So it's a transformative phase. As you invest in the spiritual realm for your prospective partner or prospective wife, it starts creating a spiritual significance, which will then manifest into the earthly realm. So he started doing this, and he was making some sort of progress when he came across a person. Again, it's not me yet. And it just matched, everything matched, and he was amazed to see how it's starting to work. He's starting to get the return of investment. He went for dates, made the deep connection, started meeting her family members. It was acknowledged that this relationship is going to work out. Family started talking, and at one point in time, when the conversations were starting to get serious, even with the family members, he just got this deep nudge that something was unsettling. So he was like, okay, I took the advice on board. I found the verse, Proverbs 31, chapter 10, 31, verses 10 onwards. I got that. I've been praying. I've invested in the spiritual realm. I saw the person. I get along with the person. I see her family. We all get along. Now, what is really my problem? So he was confused and he was unsettled. He couldn't sleep at night. He just couldn't understand what was wrong now, like after all of this hard work that he did. Like, what was wrong? This is perfect. Like, should he just suppress this thing, just ignore these unsettling feelings and just go ahead with the plan, stick to the plan because you found the right one? So when he was confused with all these questions and couldn't put a pin on it to identify the problem, he called his counselor again and said, I have this situation. And he was about to explain this, the circumstances and how he was feeling. But the counselor jumped beforehand and said, have you met someone? And are you thinking if this is the right person for you? And he said, I have met someone and I am kind of sure that it is the right person, but I just have this nudge, or it's very unsettling feeling that I just can't get rid of, and I have no idea what it is. So the counselor told him that, Joseph, you have met the counterfeit one. There's nothing wrong with the person, but it's just that it's a counterfeit one. This is not the one for you. And he was like, oh, come on, like, seriously, so he took that quite hard, and he had to go back with the response because they were trying to progress this to a point of fixing the dates of the wedding and so forth. And he had to go back to them and said, unfortunately, this is not going to work out. So he didn't just take the counselor's word. I'm not trying to say that he just took the counselor's words, but then it made sense to him that yes, in the natural realm, everything seems to be ticking off. It just feels so right. It just feels like everything has just fallen into its place. But the spirit within you speaks a different language. It speaks a different message, which may be contrary to what's happening in the natural. So he just had to trust his spirit that the Holy Spirit was trying to warn him and not lead him on that track, even though it looked absolutely perfect. So he took that decision that, I'm going to trust in the Lord, and I'm not going to give in to what the natural means would dictate to me. I'm going to trust the Holy Spirit and the influence the Holy Spirit has in my life and be led by the Holy Spirit. So he let the lady and the family know that unfortunately we're not going to proceed with it, which didn't go down really well. And he couldn't give them a better justification, then he's prayed about it, and he didn't have the the conviction that this was the right one. So he let it go, and he was back to square one. And when he's back to square one, he didn't sit idly. He didn't sit like, okay, fine, you know what, enough is enough. He didn't say that. He went back to the drawing board, took Proverbs 31 verses 10 onwards, and started praying again. And this time he was a little bit more vicious in the way he was saying it, because he knew that, okay, I've let go of the counterfeit one, and he was 100% sure that God would bring the right person along. So in 2012, he was left with a defeated heart, because he's something that's so picture perfect has just been taken away, or he had to let it go. And he's like, okay, I'm back to the drawing board, and I'm going to keep praying. So he kept praying, and praying more, and praying even more. Every single minute that he had, he kept praying, because he knew that he had to be serious about this. So that's when we met, and we met in a church, and I was a great friend of his, and he shared this thing with me, and he's like, you know what, I had this counterfeit experience, and this is the worst. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. Like really, for a virtuous wife, what's the worst for the husband? No, not much. I wonder why. I don't know the answer to that question, but I was intrigued. I was like, oh, you have this picture of a virtuous wife. It's really good. Like, she's hardworking. She takes care of people. She has a heart for the needy. It's really good. And if you agree with that, which is not always very common, we have a generation of men that's been raised with the expectation that is so superficial that they don't really matter. All of this doesn't really matter to them sometimes. So, to find a person who was kind of focused completely on these virtues and these values was like, oh, pretty good, huh? Nice. So we both teamed up, and we were praying for his partner, so his wife. And I was like, oh God, like really, he's such a good person. So bless him with a virtuous wife, give him the prudent wife. And we both were praying. We both started looking through dating sites and places like that to get him. So I was helping him. I was that naive, maybe. So we started doing that. We started praying together, and eventually, to cut the long story short, we understood that God actually wanted to have both of us together in union. And within about 5-6 months, we were married. So that's kind of the story, how the story goes. And even to this day, he says that this prayer really changed his heart. So the focus is not that the woman should be like this. It's the woman's responsibility to pray this and be transformed like this. But it also does some work in the man's heart. It helps the men to also have a different lens when they're looking for the right person. So instead of getting lost in the beauty or lost in the outward shell of a woman, the person can now look deep in the heart to see, do you have these values? And then make the decision likewise. And if you have, or if you know someone who has an unsettling feeling but then is trying to compromise, let them know that this unsettling feeling would be the Holy Spirit trying to give you a nudge or a warning that this is not probably the right person, even though everything looks absolutely wonderful on the outside. So with that, I just want to give that story and let you know that, if you are in pursuit, or someone who's in pursuit of that virtuous wife, this is the investment strategy that they will need to hold on to. It's foolproof. Trust me. Now, I'm just one case study, but then there are many other people who have used this every single time that they had experience of finding that virtuous wife in their life. Pastors who have advised this to people, and it has helped to transform them. You'll get your priorities right. And that's very important, because if you don't have your fundamentals right before you enter a long-lasting, lifelong relationship, it's going to be a rocky road out there. So I hope this message would make sense to you. It would be a blessing for you and anybody that is looking for a virtuous wife. And stay blessed. I'll see you another time.